Hey guys, I'm Avish. This is the 28th video of .NET MAUI with Syncfusion control series. In the previous session, we discussed about the radial gauge charts and explored the axis customizations of the radial charts. Please review the previous session before proceeding. In this session, we will focus on pointers and annotations of the radial charts. A pointer is used to indicate value on an axis. The radial gauge control has different type of pointers such as shape pointer, which indicates the current values by using different type of pointer shapes such as circle, diamond, inverted triangle, rectangle and triangle. Content pointer allows to use any of the .NET MAUI content as a pointer, which means we can use labels, images or any other controls as content to represent the selected pointer value. Needle pointer contains three parts, which are needle, knob and tail, and that can be placed on a gauge to mark the values. A range pointer is an accenting line or shaded background range that can be placed on a gauge to mark the value range. Along with the pointers, radial axis allows us to add multiple views such as text, icon, image, etc. as an annotation to a specific point of interest in the radial gauge. We can customize the annotations based on different properties such as direction value, direction unit, position factor, horizontal alignment and vertical alignment. Let's now switch to the coding session and understand pointers and annotations. In the previous session, we have focused on radial axis within the radial gauge charts. We have also customized the radial axis and added the custom properties. Let's now focus on the radial pointers. There are different type of pointers that are available, which are shape, content, needle and range. Let me start off with a fresh radial gauge which we have been building from the previous session. So let me run the application and show you the output. Notice that we have created one radial gauge chart in the previous session. Let me switch back to the XAML file and start creating a new radial gauge chart so that we can add more pointers to it. Let me stop this application, switch to the Syncfusion toolbox, drag and drop the radial gauge chart. I have SF radial gauge here. Now the moment I drag and drop, notice that the system is prompting for an error stating that the property content is set more than once. That's because we need to wrap the radial gauges within the vertical stack layout, which is the content. Right now, a scroll view can embed only once. So in order to achieve that, I will copy and paste the vertical stack layout from my other screen and wrap up the radial gauges within the vertical stack layout. So let me close this vertical stack layout here, and then also let me add a separator, which is the box view, and let me add it right after this first SF radial gauge chart, the way we have been doing from the previous session. Now let me run this application and you can notice that there are two radial gauge charts. Let me show you that. Notice that the moment we wrap it with vertical stack layout, the output is empty. That's because we need to add a height request for each of these charts. So let me add a height request of 400. Let me do the same for the second one as well. Let me switch back and notice that we have a line separator and we have the radial gauge chart which is created with the basic structure. Now I have given a background color as LS blue for the first one. So let me remove the background color for time being and notice that the output is looking good now. Let's now focus on the radial pointers. Let me add those 4 pointers. The first one is the shape pointer. So let me add gauge, radial axis and add pointers. And within the pointers, let me add gauge and shape pointer. Let me just create the shape pointer and leave it as it is with a value as 45. Let me save this and switch to the output. Notice that we now have a shape pointer on this radial gauge on the axis and it is pointing at 45. Let's add another pointer, which is the needle pointer, which start off with the axis. So I'll say gauge needle pointer and let me put the value to some 65. Close the needle pointer. Let me switch back to the application. Notice that we now have a needle pointer and it is pointing to 65 on the axis. It could be degrees, it could be Fahrenheit, it could be anything. But right now, I've set the value as 65 and we will see how to enhance each of these pointers with custom values in a moment. Then we have another pointer property called range pointer. I would say gauge colon range pointer and I will give the value as 30. Let me close this. Notice that the range has started from 0 and extended till 30. All of these pointers are having the common default system color. We'll see how we can change the colors in a moment, but adding the pointers are pretty simple in the radial gauge chart. Let's now start customizing each of these pointers, starting with the shape pointer. The other pointer that I would like to explain is the custom content pointer, where we can add our own rectangles, images and wrap it with the vertical stack layout, and I will be showing you that in a moment. Let's now add few customizations on the shape pointer on the fly and see the output. Let me switch back to the XAML, and within the shape pointer, now if you notice that I cannot move the shape pointer at all. In order to make it flexible along with the interaction, we would need to set the property called isInteractive to true. Once this is done, we can add more properties called fill. I can add the fill color as red for the shape pointer. Notice that the shape pointer is now red and I can easily move the shape pointer along with the radial gauge axis. Now once this is done, we can also add more properties. There are different type of shapes that are available, which are circle, diamond, inverted triangle, rectangle and triangle. Let me show you the circle now, and feel free to add your own shape pointers as per your requirement. After this, we can also set the value of the pointer. It doesn't need to lie exactly on the axis. It can be outside or inside the axis by using the offset property. So let me set the offset property to -30 so that it can switch outside the axis and it can move easily. Along with this, we can also create or add the property called shape height. Let me define it as 30, and also we can give an overlay radius. Now if you observe that there is a bigger overlay radius around this shape, which is the circle. Let me remove the shape height as 30. It is not looking attractive at all for circle, or I will change the shape type to diamond and I can increase the shape height to 30. Now let me switch back and show you that you have a radius, a bigger radius around this diamond. So let me reduce the shape width to 30. So let me call the shape width to 30, switch back and notice that the radius is changing. I can reduce it further as well. Look at that. We have different shapes. So by default, I think it's a triangle which shows up. So let me remove this shape height and shape width. It is just to show you the difference. I have created those properties. Now the value is very flexible, and we also have a different property called value changed event. Value started, changing, completed and changed event. We'll look into these event trigger properties in a moment when we use the custom pointer. However, we don't need it for the shape pointer right now at this point of time. Let me also define another property called overlay radius, which is towards the shape pointer, which defines the overlay radius as well. Now there are many other properties and I encourage you all to explore each of them as per your requirement. Let's now switch to the needle pointer and explore the properties of the needle pointer. Within the needle pointer, we can add customizations to the knob as well as to the needle. Let me show you quickly a few of those customizations. We already have a value property. I would say knob fill. We can fill the knob as green and quickly switch back to notice that the knob has been changed to green. Let's add the knob radius as 15, and I would say knob size unit equal to pixel. We can use either factor or pixel. Let me use pixel right now, and then I would say knob stroke as black, and after this let me add the knob stroke thickness as well. Let me change the knob stroke thickness to 0.02 and switch back and show you the output. Now we have all these options customized. Now let me change the needle fill color as well. Let me make the needle fill as red. So let me add needle fill right after this. Notice that the needle is now with red because we added needle fill as red. Let me also change the needle length and unit. Let me add the unit as factor. You can add pixels as well, but factor will be accurate from a range of 0 to 1 with the decimal place places. Let's say if I put 0.9, notice that needle is almost touching the axis. The moment I say 1, it will be completely with the length of this axis. So let's keep it at 0.7 for now. We can make the needle start with as 1. We also have the properties such as needle tail width, that we can increase the tail of the needle as well. So I would say needle tail length as 40, and then you observe that we have another needle which is coming back. So we can reduce the tail length to 5 or something like that, so that we have an extra tail which is filling in. Let's also add tail fill, tail length and tail length unit so that we get the tail of the needle after the knob fill. Let me change the tail fill color to some light, I would choose light green for now. Notice that we have different customization to the needle pointer. I'm getting into each and every detail of these customizations. That is because I want to enhance this radial gauge into a complete clock. In order to understand or create a complete clock, we need to understand each and every detail of the pointers, axis, the values, the offsets, so that we can give life to this radial gauge chart and create it as a complete clock. Let's now explore the properties of the range pointer. Similar to the needle as well as the shape pointer, range pointer has got its own customization values. One of it is fill. Let me fill this range with blue color. So let me switch back and show you the code. We now have the range color as blue. We can start the range from instead of 0 to 30 or 0 to 40, we can add our own customization, but we'll look into that later stages. We can also add gradient stops for the range pointer. So we can define multiple gradient stops. Let me add a gradient stop for a couple of the values within the range pointer. Let me say gauge gradient stop starts with red, ends with green, and the start value is 10 and the end value is 30. Let me now switch back and show you that. Look at that, we now have different gradient start and stops within the range pointer. Let me switch back and say pink. Let me start it from 2 and end it with 50. Let me switch back and notice that we still have with 30. So let me change this value to 50. So let me restart this application. Notice that we have the pink starting till 30 and we have the green picked up later until the 50. And also we can use the shape pointer to move between the different axes. Along with these 3 out-of-box pointers, we can create our own custom pointer as well. Let me collapse all of these pointers, and right after the range pointer, let me create a pointer called content pointer. Let me copy and paste it from my other machine, and notice that we have a content pointer. Let me start the content pointer from value from 45, and if I switch back, you don't see anything. That's because we have not defined any content which indicates the content pointer. So let me switch back to the code and use the same properties that we have used earlier. I would say it is interactive to true. Let me put the offset to -30 so that it appears outside the axis. And then let me start the value of this content pointer from 45, which I have already defined over here. Once this is done, within the content pointer, let me expand that. We have gauge and content pointer dot content. And within that, I would like to create one grid and add a height request. So let's say I have a height request of 60, width request of 60 as well. And within the grid, I'm going to define a round rectangle so that it shows up the value within the rectangle. So let me add few properties for this rectangle, which is corner radius as 8, so that it's not a plain rectangle. I'll add a fill as white color, and then I will add the stroke as black color, so that within the rectangle we have the white and the stroke is black. After this, I'm going to add a stroke thickness of 2. That's it, done. Now we have a round rectangle right now. After this, let me add a vertical stack layout and start defining an image and label. Let's assume that if this is a radial gauge displaying the temperature for that day, we can use it as a image. I have already downloaded the sun image and placed it under the images folder on the left side. So I would say the image has got a height request of 30, and then we have horizontal options as center. And also let me add the source as sun.png, which is the image which I have downloaded earlier. Let me add the width request as 30 and close this image. Let me switch back and notice the output. For all the custom content, we need to restart the application. So let me also add another label here. Label, font attributes, I would say bold. I will add the font size as 10, and then I will add horizontal options equal to center, and then I would say I will also give a text property and give it a static value. We're going to enhance it to dynamic, but for now let's say it is 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So let me change this to 45 degrees, and then we will create a text color as black. That's it. We have defined our custom content pointer. So let me switch back or restart the application and show you the output. Notice that we now have a pointer outside which is interactive. However, the value within this pointer is not changing. So in order to make the value change based on the movement of this content pointer, we need to add an event. That would be value changed, which I discussed earlier. Let me create a new event handler called content pointer value changed. The moment I create this, you will notice that there is an event created within the code behind file. Within that code behind file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define a name for the pointer. So within the label, I'm going to add X name so that we can change this name dynamically as pointer. Let me call this as pointer. That's it. And let me switch back to the code. Over here, I would say this dot pointer dot text equal to, notice that we have an auto prompt option saying value dot toString. Let me convert or cast it back to an integer. I don't care about the decimal values over here. So let me convert this to e dot string toString, and let me postfix this with Fahrenheit. That's all. Let me stop this application and restart it again. Notice that we now have the value changing as and when I move this content pointer. It is that simple. Now let me switch back to the code and add annotations to the radial axis. Now that we understand the custom pointers where we represent the selected value of the pointer within the custom pointer, the selected value of the axis can be displayed within the custom pointers. Similarly, we can use annotation to represent the data of the selected shape pointer within the axis. Let's say right now my shape pointer is at 75 degrees Fahrenheit and I want to display the 75 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit within the axis at any point of the location. We can achieve it using the annotations. Let me switch back to the code and start creating the annotations. Right after the pointers, let me create the annotations within the radial axis. So let's say gauge radial axis dot, instead of pointers we should choose annotations. So within the annotations we would say gauge dot gauge annotations, and within the annotations we will define our own custom content. We would say gauge annotation dot content. This is the place where we will define our custom content, or we will create our own label. Now let's say we want to create a label and we want to bind the value of the shape pointer. Let me collapse this content pointer and give a name of the shape pointer as marker pointer. Now I can reuse this reference and show the selected value of the shape pointer within this annotation. Let me show you how to do that. Now within the content, I will create a label, and within the label, let's say I will define some properties similar to what we have done in the content pointer. And let's say the text is nothing but, let me scroll down a bit, it will be a binding source of the reference. Now what is the reference here? The reference is nothing but that we have defined. The reference is nothing but what we have defined above. So I would say reference of marker pointer. Now look at that. We can also define the other reference of custom pointer. However, I would like to define the marker pointer, and we will say comma path equal to the value of the selected pointer, which is our marker pointer. And within the value, I will give a string format as well. Our string format will be degrees Fahrenheit. That's it. Let me also define a text value here, text color here equal to black. That's all. Now let me restart the application and notice the output. Observe that the annotation is right on top of the needle knob. So let's change the position of this using different properties or customizations available in the annotations, which are direction, unit, direction value, position factor, and the alignments. So let me switch back and add the direction value within the gauge annotation. I would say direction value equal to 90, and then I would also give the position factor equal to 0.5. Now let me switch back and show you that. Notice that we now have a direction placed or the position of the annotation in a different form. Let me change this shape position pointer, and notice that as and when we change the position of the shape pointer, you see the annotation being changed within the axis. That's simple it is. We can also add an image just above this label as well. Within the content, it is a regular content, so I can create a vertical stack layout, embed the image, which is the image which we have used above, and right after the image I can place the label. Now if I switch back, notice that we have the image overlapping with each other. We can change the image position as well, so that both the image and label are visible with each other. I have changed the height and width of the image, also the direction value. Let me restart this application and show you the output. Notice that the image and text are perfectly placed. Let me move this aside and move the shape pointer, and notice that we have the change of the pointer data value reflecting in the annotation. With this, we have successfully understood the pointers, custom pointers, annotations of radial gauge charts. In the next session, we will discuss more features of radial gauge charts control. Till then, thank you for listening and have a great day.